Hi, Miz, and welcome to the show.
Hello, Jason.
So good to have you
How
on
are
today.
you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am wonderful.
Yeah, I am doing well today. It is Friday, the end of January here in 2020. And I am excited to talk to you and get to know about you, as we'll talk about in a bit. We don't actually know each other very well at all.
This
So
is
I'm
true.
excited to get to know you and probably get to know a little bit more about me too through our time together today. So let's get right into it. So first thing, Miz, love if you would introduce yourself, where you are in the world, and anything that you'd like to share with the audience to kick us off.
Cool. Thanks, Jason. Yep. My name is Miz. I'm calling in today from Jersey City, where I just recently moved. So I will accept any and all jokes about New Jersey. I will own them 100%.
Forthcoming.
Yes. I know what's ahead of me. So I am Miz, which is short for Mary Liz, which has been my nickname for a very long time. And I think most importantly, I would like to consider myself a cool person since I am on your show.
Oh, yes. Well, you wouldn't be here if you weren't. So consider yourself officially crowned, at least from my
Thank you.
minor power as a pod show host.
I will accept it.
Awesome.
So I think important to know about me, I have two kind of coined terms that I use. I am what I call funemployed. So that's a term for me that's evolved over the last few years. But right now, what it means for me is that I am employed by projects that I find fun, not necessarily easy. And I have what I call a portfolio career. So I do a few different things, and I see that mix will evolve over time. Currently, it means that I freelance in tech for a really cool boutique fitness company that I love. And I also own and I'm growing a property management business with my boyfriend. That's
cool.
what I am up to these days. Yep.
Very cool. Thanks for sharing that. So Miz and I actually know each other through a mutual friend, Amanda. I will leave your name off here, but hi, Amanda, if you're listening. Hopefully you listen to this. Man, I hope she would, since she knows both of us. That seems that she would probably listen. Yeah, so hi, Amanda. Thanks for introducing me to Miz. And that's how we know each other. And as a tradition on the show, like to do first impressions of each other. And since we have met once on a Zoom meeting, once in person where we didn't really get a chance to interact much, and now here today, this should be interesting because we haven't shared this with each other. Yeah. And because it's my show, and because you moved to New Jersey, I'm going to have you go first.
Okay. Sounds good. So yes, Amanda introduced us kindly, and I would say her opinion carries a lot of weight in my life and in most things. So I started off figuring that you were a good person because she said good things. So, and she knew that you were going to be doing this podcast and we're looking for cool people to talk to, and kindly introduced us, I think, hoping that we would hit it off and that this would come to fruition, what we were doing right now. And awesome. Also, I happened to be curious about the coaching program that you were doing, so I came in and observed that. So we'd had a conversation on the phone. Let's see, during that conversation, my first impression of you was it lived up to Amanda's opinion. I thought you were a really nice and good person.
Uh-huh.
What I really remember from that first conversation was, one, I thought you were super straightforward, which I value. I remember mentioning something. I write a blog, and I had been writing and have been writing pretty sporadically. And I remember you were just like, "Oh, you're just not that committed to it." And I was like, "Oh shit, yep, he's calling me out on my shit right away." So I like that. And I also thought you were really curious and inquisitive, which that stood out to me. That's something else that I really value. And that stood out to me in that you were asking me some probing questions about my experience working with coaches to better educate and learn for your own coaching practice. And I really thought that was cool.
Yeah, that's awesome, Miz. Thank you. Yeah, I don't remember the probing questions, so I'm not even sure if I wanted to do that. Maybe it's just in my DNA at this point. Maybe it's something I could rein in, but if you thought it was okay, then
no, I like that.
Then okay, cool. Yeah, well, thank you. So my first impression of you is you're also a super straight shooter, which I also appreciate. That's my impression of you. And my impression of you is you have this, oh man, how do I describe it? I was thinking about this question today.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you have this. So I actually know you more from your social media presence and from reading your
Mm-hmm.
blogs than I know you as a person. I think you have like this really unique quality of like really driven and hardworking combined with like super fun, which
Thank you.
I think is what we'll talk about today because I can't even remember. You just said the term and I keep forgetting it. What do you call yourself? A funpreneur?
Funemployed. That's a
Funemployed.
great
That's
term
right.
too.
Yeah,
Funemployed. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. So
Yes.
I think we will learn a lot about each other, and I think the audience will learn a lot about you, and uncover this as we go through
Yes.
our time together today. So again, thank you. Yeah, thank you for being on.
Can I add one more thing?
You certainly can.
To my impression of you, or just something that I thought was really, really nice. So when in your coaching program,
if you're complimenting me,
yeah,
if you're complimenting me, we can spend the whole hour on that. That's great. I'm totally good with that.
Oh yeah, I heard you say you're not good at accepting compliments, so I'm going to challenge you on that.
Yeah, that actually is true. You're busting me right now.
Well, we're going to make you work on it live. Okay.
Oh man.
So in your coaching program, you had guests observe, which is super cool. And everyone went around and introduced their guests, and us having met like less than 24 hours before that, or just around 24 hours before that, you introduced me and described, you said, you are light. And I remember that because I think that's like my ultimate compliment. My dream in life is to like be that person who walks into a room and has like that beautiful magnetic presence that I think of the word radiant light. And so that I thought was a really lovely compliment. So thank you for that.
Oh yeah, you're very welcome. So this is like, from working with coaches and being interested in the industry as well. It's like you have your coach ears, but you also have your coach eyes, and you look for people's ways of being and how they show up energetically, not just like what they do for you or what they're doing or if they're stressed or they're happy. So yeah, well, I'm glad that my radar for you is actually something that you felt was accurate and felt as a compliment. So that means a lot to me.
Thank you.
And that's it. No more compliments. No more acknowledging. This is going to be all jokes around New Jersey City. No more emotions. Come on.
Okay. I gave you a compliment of the compliment you gave me. So really it was like a compliment to myself.
It's a meta compliment. I love it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited. Like I said, I'm excited to have the conversation today. So let's get right into it. So Ms., first things first, what is something that you nerd out about?
I nerd out about podcasts. I used to be a huge music nerd. Like I was always up on who's the new band, like what are the coolest bands coming, going to concerts every week. And now I just like never listen to music because the podcasts have taken over all of my commuting, and anytime the headphones are in the ears, it is a podcast. And my podcast tastes, I'd say, are like very polar opposites. It's like I'm either listening to some personal growth, like coaching podcast, or I'm listening to like true crime. So, I know how to like better myself, but I also know how to like avoid being swindled, becoming part of a Ponzi scheme, or like getting murdered.
And there's your kind of fun coupled with more serious side, as you know how to protect yourself,
right?
And also enjoy yourself. That's amazing. We recently listened. I like true crime stuff too. I haven't listened to much recently because I've been busy with my show and listening to a lot of other interview shows to pick up some things that I like about them that I can use here. We did listen. Did you listen to the DC one? Is it 99 Hours? Is that what it's called? Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
It's good. Really good. It's it's like professionally done. It's about it was 5 years ago. There was a really horrible murder. A family was murdered in a really nice part of Washington, D.C., and then they burned the house down. The people burned the house down. And it's about the investigation. Right up my alley. Yeah, no, you'd like it. I will send you the recommendation afterwards because I can't remember it at this moment. But it's really good. Really good. So cool. Any fun podcasts you want to recommend to the audience?
Oh, fun. I love Dax Shepard's podcast, Armchair Expert. That's a great interview podcast as well. Have you listened to that?
No, I haven't. And I was just looking at the charts this week, and my show is not on the charts yet. Someday.
Not yet, but it will be.
When I have Dax on someday. I have a list of people that I want to have on my show. I think Joe Rogan is the number one podcast in America, right? Last week. I think Dax was number 8 or 9. So I've heard it's great. Yeah. I won't ask you about it. I'm just going to go listen to it myself. I actually got a couple long drives ahead of me, so I will listen to Dex.
Yeah.
And I think him and Kristen Bell are just awesome anyway. So
they're so cool.
like very cool people.
Listen,
very identifiable.
An episode. Oh yeah, for sure. And an episode recently, he interviewed Ronan Farrow, and I loved that episode. And I ended up listening to Ronan Farrow's podcast about him breaking the Weinstein story, and that was so fascinating. It's
That's
crazy.
awesome.
So that Ronan Farrow Catch and Kill, that podcast is really good. It's short. It's you get your nice white collar crime.
Love it. I love it. Well, thanks for sharing that, and it's cool that you're on a podcast and you nerd out about podcasts. How amazing is that? And I didn't know that about you either. That was a surprising answer to me. So awesome. So next, little nugget. So next we're going to talk about your comfort zone and something that is inside of your comfort zone that might be outside of somebody else's. So what comes to mind for you around that?
I love this question. I think it's such a great question. So I'm going to steal it. And
please do.
For me, it is.
Yes.
Yeah. For me, it's sharing my home with strangers. So I've been an Airbnb host for going on 4 or 5 years. And for a while, now I live with my boyfriend. We did it in our last apartment together. We've always had a 2-bedroom apartment and basically what we call house hacking. So house hacked to have someone else sort of pay our rent while also doing something that we love and providing a nice service and experience for other people. But I did this when I lived alone in Williamsburg. I got a 2-bedroom apartment. I rented it. I had I did not have the income to get approved for it, but somehow got this apartment anyways, spent everything I had to get it decorated and ready based on this idea of okay, I want to do this. And ended up hosting hundreds of guests in my spare room.
Wow.
To the point where I'm just so comfortable. Some nights I'd be in bed and people would arrive late and I've never met these people before. And they're coming into my home and sleeping in the guest room.
Wow.
And I'm thinking to myself, it's so weird that I'm comfortable with this right now,
That is an awesome answer.
But, I've done enough research with all these true crime podcasts that I kind of know the signs to look out for. So I think I'm good.
Oh man, I could spend an hour on this, asking you about this, because sometimes in the show, people's inside their comfort zone is oh, I like public speaking. I'm this is actually something that I really think most people are not comfortable with. I think so we also have an Airbnb, not here in the city, but up in the Catskills, we own a place.
Cool.
We rent that. Yeah, we rent that out, but we're not there. So it's different, right? Of course it's your house, but the idea that people are just going to show up at your apartment and you're in the other room. So I have, so I have a question for you.
Yes.
Do you ever have any people that show up and it's a little rowdy, sexually, or they're partying? And the second question is, have you ever had anything actually weird happen?
Yes. Such a good question. And I say yes to the good question. And it's I don't have everyone asks me that as soon as I say, oh, I share my place on Airbnb. They're oh, what's the worst thing that's happened? Or have you had any weird experiences? So very fitting question. My weirdest experience was, and it's really not even that weird. And what's cool is I've hosted people all different types of people, all different countries, all different ages. And I had this German couple, they were probably in their 60s, and I had gone out to the gym one morning, and I guess they thought I left for work. And I just walk in and the woman's butt naked in my living room. And my reaction to that was she was and I was it's okay, we all have bodies. And she just then proceeded to go back to the bedroom and then walk back to the bathroom naked. But Germans are notoriously comfortable being naked. So I was it's cool.
Oh man, that for people listening that are maybe I should be more comfortable with that. After that story, they're no, nope, I'm not doing that. Naked, almost senior citizen Germans in your living room. That's hilarious. Wow, that's a really
one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Another one was I had some Japanese guests and they just didn't realize I was home and in bed, and they got back and they were pretty drunk and just put on music in the living room, and I woke up, I was what is going on out there? And they were giggling and I don't know, probably making out or something on the couch. And I opened the door and I just scared the living shit out of them because they did not think I was home. So, because I had said, I'm getting home at 11, and they use military time. And so they thought I was getting home at like 11 the next morning. So, yeah.
That is so funny. That's so funny.
Yes.
Oh man. I don't know. I feel I've done quite a few episodes. I feel like you might win the trophy for the thing that is most inside of your comfort zone. That is like the actual thing that's outside almost everybody else's comfort zone. I'll send you your certificate in the mail. You can hang it in your new apartment.
Thank
I'm sure you'll be very proud. Yes. So now,
I've
Miz,
sort of like done. Go ahead.
No. Finish what you're saying.
Oh, I've done. I feel like I've done an analysis on myself based on this, because I'm like, okay, what is the underlying thing? Like, why am I so comfortable with this? And I think it boils down to two things. I think I like have a really strong instinct and intuition about people, like based on very little information. And then with that, I am like, my default is to trust people. Like, especially if they pass that gut check. So like my default is like, after hosting so many people, it has sort of strengthened that trust, because I have so much evidence that I can trust people. You think about Uber drivers or cab drivers, and like, you don't know who's getting in your car.
Oh,
so it sort of works in all of society. It's just Airbnb kind of like turned it on its head and was like, let's do this like in people's homes.
Yeah, absolutely. Super cool. Wow, that is such an interesting answer. So let's see if you can top that with the next question, which is the opposite of this question. So something that is outside of your comfort zone that might be inside of somebody else's.
Yes, I think this is inside like the majority of people's comfort zones. It is being a full-time W-2 employee.
Yes, true.
I've tried it a few times. It's just, I've known since I was young, I was always like, I'm going to be my own boss. I'm going to be my own boss. And I don't know where that comes from. But I've tried being an employee. And one of my coaches said to me, she was like, you're just a shitty employee. Like in a very nice, loving way. It was a compliment. It's like, you are not meant to be an employee. You're not a good one. So stop trying. I've even had friends say to me, like, if you try to get another full-time job, we're going to stop you.
We're going to host an intervention. Maybe, you're like, I need a paycheck.
Yes, I know. And like when things get tough or challenging, I'm always like, oh, wouldn't it be nice? Like, because I've been working on the weekends a lot. And so I'm like, oh, wouldn't it be so nice to just like, outsource my responsibility? I can get a cushy W-2 job. I get my health insurance and all the stuff. And like, that's like, oh, wait, no. Remember how you were when you were in that position. Like, not good for me mentally.
Yeah. So is it the lack of freedom? Is it having to work for somebody else? Is it the not caring? Like what part about working for somebody else is the biggest challenge for you?
Yeah, it's interesting because it's all made up in my head, like it's what's the difference of, it's just a contract or a piece of paper that's different. Because right now I freelance and I'm essentially acting just like an employee, but what's different for me is I feel a different sense of ownership, knowing that like, okay, they're hiring me as a consultant. It's my brand and I have to uphold that. I think I get like when it's in the other situation, like in all honesty, I think I get like lazy, like, or I sort of get bored. I'm like, oh, so I can collect this paycheck and all these things for doing this amount of work. So why would I like push myself? I don't know. I think I just show up my best when I know that I am sort of the owner of everything.
Yeah, man, I can imagine if I had a client come to me with this sort of thing. I'll bet you and your coaches have had some interesting conversations around this. Yeah, that's cool. That's super cool.
Yeah, I had a coach. I described it as like, I was like, I always feel like a caged bird. And then she challenged that with me. She was like, oh, like, what if the door was open to the cage? Like, what if you could leave and come back? And like, that helped evolve what I'm doing. Cause it was like, oh, I can still do the job that I'm doing, but I'm just going to do it a little bit differently.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
I'm just going to freelance. I'm going to take a project for 6 or 8 months or 3 months. And then, the projects, I've only been freelancing for a year, and the projects I'm already back at one of my first clients. So
Awesome.
things kind of circle around and kind of leave the cage and come back to the cage, and it's comfy. It's not a like jail cell. It's like a beautiful gold bird cage.
Yeah. So before we move on, I have a question for you around this, because I think this is such an awesome topic. And I know I'm pretty sure we're going to talk more about this, but I want to just put it in here now because it's on my mind and that's kind of how I operate. If you've got people who are listening to this episode who feel like you do and are working somewhere for somebody or working for a company and feel like a caged bird, what quick advice would you give to them?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's something, and I think it's something that I'm very passionate about, is like helping other people that feel that way. I mean, one, and get a coach. And that was the most helpful for me, because it helped me sort of reframe everything I was going through. It helped me to understand, like, and let's say you can't get a coach, I would start with focus on the qualities of what it is that you want. Like, don't focus on like the job title or searching online for the exact thing that's going to meet all of your criteria. Like, step away from all of that and focus on what are the things that I'm going to say yes to. Like, take a piece of paper and like, what are all the things I'm going to say yes to? What are all the things I'm going to say no to? And if you're absolutely miserable, like, leave the job, do something. It's okay to get a temporary job. Like, I worked for the most random job. I worked at the Archdiocese of New York. I took a pay cut, was working hourly. It was like the most random job after I'd quit my first job, or the first time I quit. And I was actually like so embarrassed about it at the time. But now looking back, I'm like, oh, I'm so proud of me for like not letting my ego get in the way and just like doing something to make ends meet for a little while I let myself figure it out. Like, it's okay to like give yourself a break and like give yourself some space to let the right opportunities come in.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay. So I give you 5 minutes to deliver a speech to the world. What would you give your speech on and why?
This actually dovetails really nicely off of the last question you just asked me. I'd do an Oprah style giveaway to the world. I'd be like, and you get one, and you get one, and what I'm
7
giving
billion?
out.
Amazing.
Yes, all of them. It's going to be a lot of paper. So maybe I'll do like a digital giveaway.
I hate paper. So make mine digital, please.
Okay. Okay. It's a digital giveaway. I'm going to email everyone in the world. And what I'm going to email them is the most beautiful, bold permission slip. And they get to fill out that permission slip with whatever it is that they want in their life, as long as it's not going to harm other people or ruin our environment. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, that for me was like something that was so big. So the why for me of why I'm going to give that out is that was the most transformative thing for me, which I absolutely attribute to one of my coaches. Is she helped me give myself permission to do the things and go after the things that I wanted without outsourcing it. So I think that I consider myself a former good girl, someone who grows up, they follow the rules, they do the things that are expected of them, they make their parents proud. And you think about the institutions that we come up in, and you're always asking permission. Like, can I go to the bathroom? Can I take a day off? Can I go see the doctor at this time? Can I leave early today? And so if you don't build up that muscle of just like starting to make your own decisions that are not dictated by anyone else around you, it's very hard to do that. And so it's not until you sort of change your mindset and realize like, oh, I actually have all the ownership right now. And like, I am the only one who gets to decide how I'm going to proceed in my life and what that's going to look like. Like, that was like earth shattering for me. So I want that for everyone else.
That's awesome, Miz. I'm inspired by that because look at my life. Like, when you work for people, growing up at school, if you go to church, it's always like permission. And like some of the people that give you permission, like, who the F are you? Like, you don't know anything more than I do. And you don't know me at all. Like, who are you to give me permission? So that's a super cool Super cool topic.
And I think what you find too is like the thing I gave myself permission to do, I was like, at that time, it was like, I just want to quit my job and not know what I'm going to do next. And like, that makes other people uncomfortable. They're like, how are you going to pay your bills? How are you going to do this? What are you going to do? And I'm like, I'm okay with it though. So that's what mattered. And so, yeah, that was super cool for me.
Oh, that's amazing. I'd like to encourage you to think about creating a TED Talk around that. That is a great TED Topic speech. So you need 18 minutes.
I love that.
18 minutes. So not 5 minutes, you need 18 minutes. Yeah. I just think about it. Okay. And if you want to brainstorm, because it's just a cool, that to me is like an actual TED Talk. Like I'm giving you the permission slip, and then like 18 minutes on like what that, yeah. And then I want you to give me full credit when you become like an actual TED Talk person. You know, you can promote me on social media. Perfect. Because I don't give away anything for free besides this podcast. No. So
yeah, you can be my hype man.
I'll be your hobby. That's amazing. I'll have like a t-shirt gun. And like that. Yeah, that's funny. I've shared this on the show once before, but I actually used to do a little bit of hype. I used to be a wedding DJ. So I know a little bit about hype stuff.
Oh, whoa, cool.
Yeah. I actually interviewed an episode coming out soon with Jason Zaplin. He's a DJ, and we talked a little bit about it because he is a wedding, bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah, does big parties, did a party at MetLife Stadium. Yeah, like on the field at MetLife Stadium. We were talking about DJing. Amazing. So it's a little known fact about me. See, you're learning stuff about me today too.
Wow, that's fascinating. What stage of your life was that in?
I was 24 at the time, so 2 years out of college. I actually had a pretty successful career in sales at that point. Like at the time, looking back, I was doing really well, but I was like, this sounds fun. Let's do it. And I was single, so I'm like, let's do it. And it was pretty cool. It was fun. And it's fun because it's not much.
Would you say you were Funemployed?
Well, no, because I actually had a full-time job. It was like a Friday night or Saturday night thing. Okay. But I'd say the DJing specifically was Funemployed. I feel like you're going to be like #Funemployed, trademarked. Nobody else can use it because it's so good. I love it. That's your platform is Funemployed. All right, I'll use it. Yeah. And we'll definitely hashtag it here when we release this episode.
Well, it started because I was actually unemployed and having fun. And then I realized like, oh wait, I can be employed and like also have fun. So, you make it seem what you want.
It's amazing. I love it.
The Talking to Cool People podcast is brought to you by Jason Frizzell Coaching. Jason works with amazing people who are looking to find and develop their passion and purpose and create their journey to wherever it is they want to go. Check us out at jasonfrizzell.com, Facebook, or on Instagram. Jason loves hearing from anyone who thinks it would be cool to connect, to be coached, or to be a guest on our show. Email him at podcast@jasonfrizzell.com or DM him on Facebook and Instagram. And now, back to some more amazing conversation on Talking to Cool People.
So at this point of the show, this is where I'd like to have you share with us kind of your journey to what led us to today. And I don't mean like here in the podcast necessarily, but like, it's end of January 2020, how you got to where you are and what you're up to in the world.
Yeah, cool. So I think I'm fairly young still, but I think it's still been a windy roller coaster of a journey, despite that. And so I grew up in Texas, outside of Houston. My family's all from the Northeast. So I came up to college in the Northeast. I went to Penn State.
That's right. You're a Big Ten person.
Yeah.
Nice. Me too.
So my family is super into Penn State. Like I have family that works for the university. Everyone went there. I like to think I had a choice of where I went to college, but I don't know that I really did.
Sorry, I just have to say it. Apologies for the Minnesota Penn State game this year. I don't know if you know, but Minnesota won on November 9th, which is also my birthday. Pretty awesome. Yeah. Sorry about that.
Oh, wow. What an exciting day.
Then I believe we were ranked 10 or maybe 12 and you're ranked 4 at the time. Sorry about that. But anyway.
Oh, shoot. Yeah. I'm actually a really bad football fan. Like I just showed up for the tailgate. My family's so into it. Yeah.
You're like, give me some wine, give me some beer, give me some wine and beer, some good food, and I'm good.
Some snacks. Just want some chips and some dip.
Yeah.
So yeah, I survived through Penn State, which, you know, not everyone does. And after, I think like my journey has been a lot of like phases of a lot of work and then phases of a lot of fun and a lot of play. I'm trying to sort of balance those out so I can not just be in like a season of work and a season of play, but that's how it's working out right now. And it's good. I like it.
Awesome.
So right after college, I don't know if you know this about me, but I moved to Australia.
I did not know that.
So, yep, I was actually very fitting in college. Why I also love hosting on Airbnb. And at Penn State, I was the orientation leader for new international students. So I would show up a week early to the school and introduce all these kids that were coming from overseas. And I obviously got along with the Australians who were there for a semester and just wanted to party. So I was along for the ride. I loved like getting to experience my college through these other students where this was like such a like new and cool experience for them.
Yeah.
That was super fun. So I latched onto a few of them and I was like, I'm moving to Australia. So that's what I did after college. And at the time I was like, I just want to be free. I don't want to have a job. I don't want to know what I want to do, but I had a job offer on the line and I ended up accepting it. I kind of knew I was like, oh, I don't really want to do this job, but I feel like I have to. Like, I feel like I owe it to my family. I, you know, have to pay my dues. So I took the job. I don't regret it, but definitely learned a lot through that. Moved back to New York, that was in finance. Then I moved and worked in tech for a little while, and I loved that job. I was an assistant to the CEO of a tech startup. And that's how I got into product management, which is what I do freelance now. For the first year of that job, I loved it. I would definitely say I was Funemployed at a full-time job. Then it I started to get those feelings again of like being a caged bird. I just felt like, oh, there's something more out here. My mom had a really like sort of a medical scare. I went through a bad breakup. I just got to like a pretty low point. Actually, my friend who coach, I had gotten her hired and they just like really screwed up a lot of stuff. And I wasn't agreeing with the management of the company and they laid her off. And that was kind of the like last straw for me. And I just ended up in a really sort of, honestly, I just ended up depressed. I remember just being at work and just like breaking down to my manager, like, I can't do this. I just feel, and it's that feeling of being a caged bird. And now from working with coaches, I realized like, oh, cause I knew I do like believe people are clinically depressed. Like, and I knew that wasn't me. I was like, this is not me. And now I look back and I realize like, oh, I wasn't depressed. I was suppressed. I was suppressing creativity. I was suppressing that intuition and that voice in me that was like, oh, there's something else that you want to do. Like, I was just not listening to myself. And I sort of repeated that cycle. So to make a long story short, I repeated this cycle. I would quit. And then I went through about 3 or 4 more jobs until finally I was like, okay, I'm not going to do that again. I am going to attempt to turn this into what I now said I call my portfolio career. I'm going to try to expand my Airbnb business, which has from Airbnb that's evolved into, we actually run like, it's like a co-living company. So our company is called Reside. And so we manage furnished rentals in Jersey City. And we went from managing 1 last year to now we're managing 20 units.
Wow.
All over a year. And they were all like, it was sort of when I made my mind up that I was going to follow the path that I wanted, that like opportunities sort of fell in our lap. And a lot of them I had resistance to. I was like, no, this is too much. Like that is above my upper limits. Like I cannot handle that. But you know, I let the opportunities come back a few times and then I said, okay, let's do it. Let's embrace it.
Yeah, that's awesome, Miz.
So now living in Jersey City, managing these properties. Luckily, my boyfriend does that full time during the week and I help him at the nights and weekends. And the goal is for me to be doing that with more of my time come later this year.
Nice.
And freelancing for a company that I really love. So in a good spot now.
Yeah, very cool. So you mentioned a couple of times you've had a couple coaches in the past. Besides the coaches, did you have, and you have your boyfriend, did you have people pulling for you to, kind of take this big leap? Like I know our mutual friend, Amanda, I'm sure she was a big advocate for you. Actually, the question I actually want to ask is, did you have any haters?
I think I was my own worst hater, like,
yeah, of course.
I was my own worst enemy. Like, you let the self-doubt pop up, but really there's no one who stands out to me as a hater. I just think of the people I'm closest with all supported it and got it. And I remember breaking down to my mom and being like, hey, I just want you guys to approve of me. And I felt like for some reason that if I went and I failed, like I tried to freelance, I tried to build this business, and I still might fail. But now that's not such a concern for me. And actually, it's brought me so much closer with my dad specifically. We had a good relationship, but he's very entrepreneurial, and
awesome.
I think that's been a really fun way for us to relate, especially around the real estate stuff.
Yeah. I just, another episode I'd recorded this week actually was with this great guy, Mike, and he inherited the family business. And he said it was really cool to get to know his dad from a place of fellow business people. It's it made their relationship even better. Cause parent son or dad son, but then also business partners, that's super cool. And being able to talk business with your parents sounds awesome.
Oh yeah, it's fun. And I'm also in business with my boyfriend and life partner, I would consider him. And that's been a really big growth experience.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And test your patience with each other for sure.
Yeah, right. Heightened stakes for all of it.
Oh, for sure. What's so cool though is and that's what we originally attracted me to Mario, my boyfriend, is we've always had the same sort of vision for our lives. So yeah, that's that drew us together, and it's really cool to be creating that together.
All right. I just have to make a dumb joke. You've probably heard it before.
Okay.
His name is Mario, and he obviously does plumbing work, right? It's so perfect.
He always a Mario, Super Mario. But he does he's learning with his business. He wants to do everything himself. He's pretty scrappy, which is great because it's helping us be scrappy and get this off the ground. And then our goal is to hire someone later this year. And so he bought, what are those things called that you get stuff out of the drain with?
Oh, a snake.
Yeah, he bought a snake. So he does go
those
around
are fun.
with a snake. Yeah. He was
so if you see
excited about it. He's
that's awesome.
Yeah.
He's geeking out about plumbing equipment. That's amazing. Well, cool. Thanks for sharing what you're up to and your journey. That's interesting. Again, things I'm learning about you on the fly, just like everybody else in the audience is. And now we come to the part of the show where we do a Jason AMA. So Miz, you get to ask me anything you'd like, and I will answer it.
All right. I want to know, what is the weirdest job that you've had? And what is the worst job that you've had? And tell me about them.
Oh, man. I'll give you the worst job first. So this is an interesting question for me. It's very thought-provoking, which is why I'm pausing, which is not something I'm very good at, because I'm looking at the jobs that I've had. For the most part, I've liked them all. Even the jobs I had in high school and college. Yeah. I think the worst job I probably had, and just, I'm not going to say which one it was, but it's the one in my corporate career. And I worked for a really big company, and it was nothing against the people. It's a really, really good company. It's a Fortune 50 company, really good people. And it wasn't anything about the company or the job itself. It's where I learned that I hate working for big companies. So for me, being in a massive structure and rules for everything, I'm not a great rule follower. So being in a structure of I don't like the idea in work of, here's your computer and your micro job description, go and do this thing. I like to be, I'm like, I consider myself much more of a startup person. I'm like the ultimate startup and one person startup now, which is so fun. Cause then it's like you and Mario, like I'm getting to create whatever I want. And sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it doesn't. So I think that would be the worst job. And and it was like, it was, but it was looking back, it was great because I'm like, oh, I don't want to work for big companies my whole career. Like a lot of people I know that do that. The weirdest job I ever had. I don't know that it's weird. Do I have permission to change from weird to another term? The coolest job I've ever had. Well, okay. So sorry. The weirdest job I ever had is probably being a wedding DJ because that's like not a thing a ton of people do.
Yeah.
It's probably the weirdest. Yeah. It's probably the weirdest job. The other job I do want to mention though, and I literally just talked to another guest about this, is when I was 16, like I've never been an entrepreneur. I was never that kid who like had lemonade stands and sold stuff and was like an entrepreneur, but I was always a kid who's like, I like working. Like I like working. I like the hustle of it. I like the grind of it. I've always done things like kind of like sales. But this first job I ever did was a phenomenal job for a 16-year-old. And so I was an usher for a company called Sim Security. And I worked at the Metrodome, which is where the Twins and the Vikings played and they had concerts. And I also ushered at the State Theater and the Orpheum Theater in Minneapolis. So at the age of 16, my friend and I, we both worked there together. We would go and I would be an usher at baseball games, football games, and like see concerts for free and Broadway shows at free. It was amazing. So I saw,
that's awesome.
So I remember seeing like Metallica and Pink Floyd for concerts. I saw like probably 100 baseball games. I saw like Jesus Christ Superstar. I saw David Copperfield, like Mannheim Steamroller, all these like big name attractions and acts that, do traveling shows at these really great theaters. Like I got to be in the room and I wasn't security. So I actually got to like watch the stuff. I wasn't the people on the field who look up at the stands. I was the person who
got paid.
And I got paid. And yes, it was minimum. I believe it was minimum wage, but like, I'm 16 years old. I'm like, dude, this is amazing. So,
that's so cool.
It was kind of a weird job, but it was really like, I'm getting paid like $30 or $35 to go and stand and watch a baseball team that I already like. Pretty dang cool. That was a little bit cool. Not that weird, but super cool. And then weirdest.
Did you ever have to deal with any altercations?
No.
Like people taking other people's seats or like.
But it was never like a big. Yeah, so that would be my role. Like, right, somebody's like, "Hey, you're in my seat." That was generally pretty easy. Altercations. Never dealt with altercations, but in 1993, which is when I had that job, the NBA All-Star Game was in the Twin Cities. And so I actually got to, and this is great because our boss loved my friend Steve and I, because we were reliable and we're like young and whatever, and we're kind of up for anything. I got to usher and escort celebrities around for the NBA All-Star Game because like the All-Star Game itself was on a Sunday, I believe. And so they have this thing like the NBA experience. They still do it now where it's like you can come in and like play basketball and like do all the, I don't know if you've ever been anything like that, but we worked the celebrity entrance. So all like big name celebrities like Will Smith and like pretty much any NBA player like Michael Jordan. If you remember the time, there's a guy named Bill Bellamy who was big on MTV. He was a VJ. Like all these people would come in and one of us and one of like four of us would get assigned to go walk around to them. And like looking back, I'm like, this is hilarious. Like Will Smith was already a massive star at that point. I think he had already done Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. He was about to do like Independence Day. So already a massive star. And like, I was like 16 years old, probably 5'11", like 170 pounds soaking wet. Like I'm not stopping anybody from doing anything, but I was like walking around with him as one of his escorts as like the Sim security guard. He obviously had his own people as well. Like, and those people were like,
that's hilarious.
Massive. Yeah. But so it was, I mean, but how amazing. Yeah. Like 16 years old and walking around as celebrities. It was really cool.
That's so cool. I bet your friends were all like so jealous.
They were. And so, yeah. And if you remember in high school when you tell people what you get paid, like nobody really cares what you get paid because everybody's paid minimum wage for the most part.
Yeah. They're like, oh, it's funny. Cool. And you got paid to like hang out with celebrities. That's awesome. Actually, Amanda and I had the most random job that was very similar only one time. So she was working for a staffing company at the time, and they were
Mm-hmm.
staffing for the Super Bowl positions when the Super Bowl was in New York.
Sure.
And I was just like, I'm up for an adventure, like always. So she was like, do you want to do this? They're staffing Super Bowl positions and they're offering them to like the internal employees first. And we were like, yeah, let's do it. And so we got our position assigned, and we get a notice over email that we were on parking duty. And we were both like, no. It's like the first weekend of February, like we're supposed to stand outside in a parking lot at the Super Bowl and like direct cars. I was like, no, I'm not doing that. And so we decided not to do it. And then they came back a few days later and they were like, actually, this position just opened up for celebrity appearance. So you need to like escort around an NFL player. Some people paid like thousands and thousands of dollars to get their Super Bowl tickets, plus also go to this party where there's like NFL players that show up or Hall of Famers that show up and sign autographs. So I had to go in the car out to pick this football player up. Honestly, I don't even remember his name. I think he played for the Jets. He probably still plays for the Jets. I can't even remember his name because that's how little I know about football. I was just like, sure, I'll do it. And so I go pick this guy up. He thinks I work. He has no idea who I am. He thought I worked for the NFL. I was like, no, I'm getting paid $14 an hour. Meanwhile, he was getting paid $10,000 to like show up at these parties. So we ended up like hanging out all day. I had to just make sure he got where he needed to be. He got a caricature done. He thought it was the coolest thing ever. I got my caricature done. We just like sat and hung out all day while he like did autographs. So that was a super random and cool,
that's
similar
awesome.
type of experience. Yeah.
And you don't know his name?
Chris. Oh, I can't remember.
No, that's all right. That's funny. You're like, we hung out all day. It was so fun, and I don't know who he is.
Yeah. And I had a picture on my phone, and I was showing my friends. At the time, I remembered his name, but now I don't.
Yeah.
I remember showing my friends the picture, and then I lost the picture. So,
and they were like,
no,
and they knew who he was.
Yeah, anyone who liked the Jets knew who he was.
Nice, that's super cool. That's awesome. All right, so back to you. And you've already alluded to a lot of this, but I'm going to ask you the question again and see if there's something else you want to share with us. Is what is it that you're passionate about?
Yeah, I think I did say this, and I'll probably dive into it a little bit more, but I am passionate. It comes back to the permission thing. Like, I'm really passionate about helping other people or being an example to other people that they can also go after what they want. Specifically, I'm most helpful when people are really miserable in their job, especially like millennials, because I'm a millennial. And just people who, there's so much to grapple with around not liking your job, because a lot of us grew up with like boomer parents who like did the same job for a long time. So you feel this guilt kind of around like, oh, well, I'm just being entitled, because that's the kind of label that we get. And it's like, no, you're allowed to want what you want, and you're allowed to go after what you want. Like, it doesn't matter that other people did or didn't do that. So I'm really passionate about helping other people realize like what's possible for them. I especially love when someone like has a specific business idea or passion, and I love like nerding out about like how they can actually achieve that and like ideating together. Yeah, that's what I'd say I'm passionate about.
Nice. How many times have you been told you'd be a fantastic coach?
Not that many. Or I think by people I'm close to, I've been told that. So that's a very beautiful compliment. Thank you. Because I like absolutely admire and love the coaches in my life. And I think it's a very necessary profession. I think maybe not everyone shares that opinion, but I think those people don't understand what coaching truly is.
Yeah. I've talked a little bit about this in the show with some other guests, but it's what I do now. And 2 years ago, I didn't know about it. I mean, I knew about it, but I didn't really understand it. And now I'm obviously such a big fan that I quit my job and do it full time and have amazing clients. So
there you go.
Yeah. It's funny how, it was not even, it was like, I was looking back at the calendar. It was 1 year and 7 months ago today, I believe, when I kind of kicked off my coaching journey of hiring a coach. I hired a coach, and that's how I got to you and I talking today. None of it would have been possible without it. So Same
Yeah.
thing. A lot of respect
I
for the
have a
coaches.
question for you. What made you hire a coach? Like, cause I look back and I'm like, I didn't even know how I knew to hire a coach, but I just felt curious about it. And then I was like, I found a guy on Yelp and he ended up being great.
Oh, that's awesome. I did not find my coach on Yelp. I found my coach through an improv class. She was my teacher. And she just
That's
mentioned
cool.
to like the class, like, hey, like if you guys are interested in talking about coaching, if you ever thought about it, like that's one of the things I do. I'd be happy to share with you what I do. And I was like, Miz, I was just like you. I was just curious. Never in a million years did I sit down and go like, you know what I need? I need a coach. And this is the thing that I'm going to
Yeah.
do right now. And I'm going to go find a coach. And this is my thing.
Yeah.
I was like, It was like in a cartoon where the character is like, and like looks over and I'm like, coach. I'm like, it just
Yeah.
struck me. It just struck me.
Yeah.
And so I had a conversation with her and she's awesome. And we just had a conversation. And a week later, I'm like, this is what I want. And
Yeah.
it's literally like without her, I would be working in a corporation somewhere. And,
Yeah. That's so
it'd be
cool.
okay. It'd be okay. But
Yeah.
like now I'm actually doing the things that I want to do. And, I don't consider myself well, yeah, I do fun employment as well. Actually, like I run a podcast, I do a bunch of things. Yeah. And it's all like, I wake up every morning, look at my calendar and go, I can't believe I get to make good money and actually get to spend time. Like Amanda, like I'm like, I can't believe that I get to spend time with her. And like, this is actually what I do for a living. Like how amazing is my life? Like, I'm so grateful.
That's so cool.
I'm so grateful.
That
and
is
like,
absolutely like, that is the essence of fun employment. Like that to me is like that feeling, like that's how I feel at my freelance job right now. Like I mean, it is, don't get me wrong, it's challenging. And like, I definitely have like a vision for my future. And like, I don't think that I will be at a desk for that entire future, but like, I get up every day and I'm like, I am excited to go here. I'm excited to do this. Like, yeah, our rental business has been like crazy over the last few months and it's like super challenging and pushed me beyond my comfort zone and any limits that I thought, like never thought I could surpass. And
yeah.
But at the end, I'm like, oh, I am so fulfilled by this. And I know that it's getting me where I want to go. And that feeling of like waking up and like being like, yes, I'm so excited to do what I'm about to do today. Like that is the complete essence, I think, of what I now consider fun employment. It used to be like, I'm not employed and I need to figure something out.
I think the thing that you and I would both completely agree on, and I'll just say it on both of our behalfs because we're on the same page with this, is for anybody listening who doesn't think it's possible, it actually is. It actually is possible. If you don't have to know how, you don't have to know the know-how, but if you get that gut feeling, it's possible. And maybe it's hiring a coach. Maybe coaching isn't the answer for you. It doesn't really matter what like the tactical things are, but it's everything we want is actually possible for us. And I just wanted to say that like struck me to say that because I think you and I are very aligned on that.
Yes. Amen.
All right. Miz, what's the thing that you're most proud of?
I don't have like a single event or thing that I'm most proud of, but I would say I'm most proud of my evolution. Like I said, like coming from a place where I was like I was making myself physically sick, and I know it was my body just telling me like, listen to me, please listen to me. So coming from that place to the place that I am now, and I wrote about this recently, but I came across a note I had written to myself when I was just in a really low period. I was very miserable at a job. I had a client that I really didn't like. I was working at an agency, and the client, I just found them to be like, they were kind of a bully. Like I just didn't like it. They didn't value me. Like, and I just kept showing up anyways. And I kind of said yes to that at the time, and now I would never say yes to that. So at that time, I wrote a note to myself in the middle of the night because I was like so anxious and barely sleeping. And I wrote a note to myself, just like from this place of like what I consider my higher self. It was kind of a note from my future self that was like so encouraging. Like, I 100% know that the career that you're dreaming of is out there for you, and like you are going to have it. And like, here are all the things you need to focus on now. Like, you need to love yourself. You need to find time for like connecting with yourself. You need to find peace where you are right now. whether you're in a job that you love or you don't love. And I forgot about this note. I wrote it at like 3 a.m. one night and totally forgot about it. Didn't think anything of it. And then now, almost 2 years later, I just came across it in my phone. And I was like, my socks were blown off because I was like, wait, I am the person now that wrote that note 2 years ago.
Yeah, I just read your blog where you referenced that.
Yeah, and that is what I'm most proud of, and knowing that like there's so much power within me that's still untapped, and like there's another future version of myself that's in there. So it's like continuing to sign up for challenges and things that are, you know, outside of my comfort zone. That is what I'm most proud of.
Awesome, it's awesome. So next question is what I call the vulnerability question. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
You sound very excited about it.
Mm-hmm.
What's something that you were afraid might actually be true about you?
I am afraid that I will never finish this one project that I started. And what I think I end up making that mean is like, I make it mean like, oh, I don't finish projects. But I think when I really evaluate that, I don't think that's true. But I specifically started renovating, which this is probably something you don't know. I bought a trailer and started renovating it into like, it's like a tiny house. So I started this project like 4 years ago with my cousin. And we put a decent amount of money into this trailer, and we were going to like find a plot of land and Airbnb it. And like, I still have the vision to do that. Just like lost my energy around it. And so my mom's always like, when are you going to get this damn trailer out of our yard? So that's something that I'm
every parent's dream.
I know, right? Like, that's like me in a nutshell. Like, oh, I want to buy this trailer from a random retired man in New Jersey. Like, and then I'm going to haul it home with my parents' car, like not think about like all of the things that go with it and like what I need to do next. But I was like, I just felt compelled to do this project. So yeah, I started it, have not completed it. Not quite sure if I will complete it.
Yeah. So then the second part of this question is, what do you do to compensate for that fear?
Oh, I don't know if I compensate for it. I think I have a protection mechanism, which is avoidance. I like just try to avoid talking about it. I try to avoid like figuring out what I'm going to do exactly. Yeah.
Got it. And now you're sharing about it on a podcast, which is very ironic.
I know. So now it's like, yeah.
It'll be like, and here's an update. We'll be like 3 months after your episode, it'll be like an update with Miz. The trailer is done and it's beautiful.
Yeah, I think I have to do that. Like, I have to be like, okay, I'm going to publicly say I'm going to finish it this summer.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say shame.
There we go.
Yeah, there it is. You guys heard it here first. Miz is going to finish her trailer. And my commitment to you is that on the Talking to Cool People social media channels, I will post a picture of it when you're ready.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
What I really want to do is I want to buy an investment property in Austin, and like I do long term, I think want to live down there. That's kind of where I could picture myself raising kids. And I would have my trailer in the backyard and rent it out on Airbnb.
Oh, it's so cool.
That's the vision.
Yeah, up where our house is, it's in a town called Narrowsburg. It's in Sullivan County. There is a small house. It's a really cute little Airbnb house. And they rent out the house. It's a little 2-bedroom, might be like 500, 600 square feet, but it's super cool. And they have an Airstream in the backyard that they rent out as a separate property in the backyard. But it doesn't have a bathroom. It doesn't have a bathroom like works for guys. I'm not sure how well it works for women. Yeah, not great. You need an outhouse or like a composting toilet or, some kind of solution. Ours has a toilet in it. It's a very small trailer. It's like from the mid 90s, and the trailer, like the top of it actually like it's on like this hydraulic like pulley system. So you like raise the top of it up.
it's pretty cool, but like you kind of feel like the toilet, like, you know, the toilet is in the kitchen, which is in the living room, which is the bedroom. So
Yeah.
I'm thinking about pulling the toilet out. I'm not sure.
That's funny.
Gotta
Okay.
figure that out.
So we are getting near the end of our time, and I have a couple other questions for you if you've got time for us, which I think you do. Got another few minutes. Great. So, Ms., is there anything else that's come up for you during our conversation that you'd like to go back to, or that anything new that's popped up for you that you'd like to share with the audience at this point?
I think we talked about recommending getting a coach. I mean, that has been like so amazing for me. And at some points in my life, like I might not have a coach, but I think for the majority of the time I will. And like you said, like if that's not the thing for you, if that's not the thing for you, like be sure to surround yourself with people who are inspiring you. Cause I'd say my closest friends are all people who believe the same things that I do about life, that you can achieve what you want and you can go after what you want. So I just find that to be so helpful, is to like have you just need like two or three really good friends that are super inspiring to you.
Yeah. It's like the whole thing of like, you're like the combination of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
So question for you, and I'm doing a little market research for myself. So you've had a couple coaches now in your life, right? 2 or 3, something like that. How did you know they were the right ones for you? How did you know they were the right ones for you?
That's a really good question. So the first coach, I found him. I did some research and I found him on Yelp, and I really specifically was like, I want a career coach. Like I don't think there is such a thing. Like it's like you can't just be a career coach. Like you are a life coach. You are a coach.
You're a coach.
You are a holistic coach. Yeah. I think he appeased me and was like, yes, let's talk about your career. Because that's what I was ready for at the time. I don't think I was ready to be like, I wasn't open to it at the time. So I was going to, I don't even remember if I interviewed many people. I just interviewed him and I had a good feeling, and I was like, okay, I'm good with this guy. Like we did, I think like 8 sessions or something. I think I got myself to a place where I was pretty satisfied, and then I just didn't have a coach again for a while. That coaching relationship ended because he kind of ended it in like saying that he didn't really want to be a coach anymore, which then it was like sort of weird for me to go back and be like, okay, I know this isn't actually what you want to be doing. So,
right. like what kind of energy and time are you putting into this? If this is not what you want to do. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of how that ended. But I mean, he was a great guy, and I definitely learned a lot through that time. And like, I'd still love to go give him an update because he'd be like so proud of me. Like, oh my God, you're like, that's the first person who I remember being like, oh, I like want to do real estate stuff. And like, I think during that time, it's probably when I bought this tiny house. And somewhat I've gone on to like do bigger projects. So I have completed projects. I just haven't completed the first one that I started.
Yeah, sure.
The second coach was a recommendation by Amanda, and I still have so many like nuggets of wisdom that I learned from her. And the thing that I was super challenged by her, she was really straightforward. She was really big on language, and I still recognize some things, and I'm like, oh, finally I get it. Like, oh, Cindy told me that 2 years ago, and now I get it. Like, I get what she was saying about how powerful my language is and how I talk to myself, and how, we can make things sound a lot smaller than they are, especially women do that a lot.
For sure.
And so she was great. Then I found a coach, Christine Hassler, through her podcast, which is excellent. She does live coaching calls on her podcast is basically all just live coaching. And I love that. I just love like the psychology of it, and how I learned so much, whether or not you think a situation applies to you or not. And so through that, I went to her spring retreat. It's like a women's retreat with Amanda. And that retreat is a lot about like emotional release, and it cracks you wide open. And it was really, really amazing. And I met my current coach there. Her name's Katie Lynn. I'll share her information with you as well.
Yeah, that's great.
She's awesome. She has a background in psychotherapy, so she's sort of a mixture of like a coach and a therapist and a little bit of everything. And she's run some group programs. I also think group coaching programs are awesome. Like, especially like I've had just like this really powerful group of women, and it's like so cool to be surrounded by people who are interested in like the same, like our brains all kind of function in a similar way where we're curious about ourselves, we're curious about bettering ourselves, we're curious about bettering the world. So that's been, really, so I think like to answer your question, at each time, like I had a different coach that was right for me. And then I think I've landed on one that's like, I'm going to stick with her for a long time. Like,
nice.
She, for me, just saw me. Like I could tell she just saw me, like as who I was. And she, just brought out a really, like a part of me that I wasn't seeing in myself at the time.
Yeah. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. And so I'm getting, it's like promotion for the coaching industry. So thank you for that. But also I'm like,
for sure.
Like I said, doing market research on when you meet with people, like what is important to you. And I know for me, the same thing. I've had 3 coaches now, and it's always one I chose, 2 I didn't, but the 2 that I didn't choose were also great is through my program. But it's like, it's really at the end of the day, it's like a connection thing for me. Like it's, like there's a lot of really great mental health, mental wellness professionals, mental wellness, I guess it's called, like therapists, coaches, people that help you with performance. It's like, there's a million people that can kind of do what they do. It's like the differentiator is like the connection with a person and what they bring. And if you're committed to something like language, then like probably gonna be attracted to something language. If you're committed to somebody who makes the sessions fun and adds levity, which is funny, adding levity is actually one of the core competencies that a coach should demonstrate according to the International Coaching Federation, which is like I think one of my strengths. Like I try and keep it fun and light no matter what you're talking about, just because, like it's always so serious to us, and you're like, and then like the next day you're like, why was I so serious about this? Like having somebody say that to you in the moment instead of letting yourself sit in that for a couple of days, I think can be powerful. I know for my coach, for me, it's that way. So thank you for sharing your perspective on that. It's really good. And that was not planned either, by the way.
No, but
random question. There you go. Or that too, whatever. Or whoever you want to. I'm good with all of it.
Yeah, no, it's hire whoever you feel connected with. And like, I think each coach brings, different skill set to the table. And it really truly is about that. Like you're here to serve certain people, and those people will find you and they'll, really connect with you.
Yeah. Awesome. So Miz, we're going to wrap up for today. Got a couple more housekeeping process items. We'll pretend we're in corporate again. We've got some ways to offboard you today. How about that? Or recruiting. I'm kidding.
Let's go for the low-hanging fruit.
Low-hanging fruit. Yeah. So where can the audience find you when they? Yeah, exactly. We're gonna think outside the box here at the end, and we're gonna get on the same page, and we're gonna create some forward momentum together. So where?
And we'll circle back later.
Oh God, there's actually sorry, just a quick aside. I just saw an artificial. It's called an AI corporate speak bullshit generator that somebody posted. It's hilarious. It will like create like a paragraph of just corporate nonsense. It's so good.
I could have done my old job.
You're like, I'm going to send in the bot and just push this button and the Miz bot is going to like just say the same thing she would say in here. You're like, we have agile sprints coming every 2 weeks, and the customer success team is asking for this. Hilarious. So I have no doubt when people hear this episode, a lot of people hear this episode, that they would love to connect with you, find out more about what you're up to, and follow your blog and everything. So how can people find you?
Yes. So my blog is Miz Stunja. That's my first name and my last name, which I hope you will spell in the show notes. And
I will.
I'm also the same thing on Instagram. And I always love to chat with people, especially people who are, feeling that way, like pent up in their jobs and want to escape. I love to chat and help share about my journey and hopefully shed some light on how you can get where you want to go.
Awesome. Well, yes, we'll definitely share those in the show notes, share out your social handles and all that good stuff. So wrapping up for today, love if you would leave us with some Ms. words of wisdom. And the words of wisdom need to fit on a Post-it note or for more modern generation, an Instagram post. And they can't be in the text. It has to be on the actual picture in the Instagram post. What do you want to leave us with?
Okay, that's good. I will say, don't let perfect be the enemy of better. So don't let the fact that things are not perfectly in order or it might not be the perfect timing, just don't let that stop you from taking steps forward. I think better is enough. Strive for better, and nothing will ever be or feel perfect.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ms., for being on today. It was awesome to get to know you, have a great conversation, and I can't wait to get your episode out and let the world hear what we're talking about. And enjoy your fun employment. And enjoy New Jersey.
I will try. I'll try.
Thanks. Thank you, Ms. Take care.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Talking to Cool People with Jason Frizzell. If you enjoyed today's episode, please tell your friends. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and give us a shout out, or take a moment to leave a review on iTunes. If something from today's episode piqued your interest and you'd like to connect, email us at podcast@jasonfrizzell.com. We love hearing from our listeners because you're cool people too.